Hi, my name is Roma Jude Marvilla, and our topic for today is all about LGBT bullying, discrimination, and lack of support. School should be a safe place for everyone, but in the Philippines, students who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender too often find that their schooling experience is marred by bullying, discrimination, lacks of access to LGBT-related information, and in some cases, physical or sexual assault. These abuses can cause deep and lasting harm and curtail students' right to education protected under Philippine and international law. In recent years, lawmakers and school administrations in the Philippines have recognized that bullying of LGBT youth is a serious problem and designed interventions to address. In the Department of Education, which oversees primary and secondary school, enacted a child protection policy designed to address bullying and discriminations in school, including on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. The following year, Congress passed the Anti-Bullying Law of 2013 with implementing rules and regulations that enumerate sexual orientation and gender identity as prohibited grounds for bullying and harassment. The adoptions of these policies sends a strong against the bullying and discrimination are unacceptable and should not be tolerated in education institutions. But these policies, while strong on paper, have not been accurately informed and in the absence of effective implementation and monitoring. Many LGBT youth continue to experience bullying and harassment in school. The adverse treatment they experience from peers and teachers is compounded by discriminatory policies that stigmatize and disadvantage LGBT students, and by the lack of information and resources about LGBT issues is available in schools. Based on interviews and group discussions conducted in 10 cities on the major Philippine islands of Luzon and the Visayas with 76 secondary school students or recent graduates who identified as LGBT or questioning, 22 students or recent graduates who did not identify as LGBT or questioning, and 46 parents, teachers, counselors, administrators, service providers, and experts on education. It examines three broad areas in which LGBT students encounter problems: bullying and harassment, discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, and a lack of information and resources, and recommend steps that lawmakers, DepEd, and school administrators should take to uphold LGBT students' right to a safe, affirming educational environment. Only 15% of Filipinos reside in areas protected by ordinances against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. The mistreatment that students face in school was exacerbated by discriminatory policies and practices that excluded them from fully participating in the school environment. School imposed rigid gender norms on students in a variety of ways. For example, through gendered uniforms or dress codes, restrictions on hair, length, gender restroom, classes and activities that differ for boys and girls, and close scrutiny of same-sex friendship and relationship. These policies are particularly difficult for transgender students who are typically treated as their sex assigned at birth rather than their gender identity. But they can also be challenging for students who are gender non-conforming and feel most comfortable expressing themselves or participating in activities that the school considers inappropriate for their sex. efforts to address discriminations against LGBT people have met with resistance, including by religious leaders. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines has condemned violence and discriminations against LGBT people by their practice. The Roman Catholic Church has resisted laws and policies that would protect LGBT rights. One way that schools can address bullying and discrimination and ameliorate their effects is by providing educational resources to students, teachers, and staff to familiarize them with LGBT people and issues. Unfortunately, positive information and resources regarding sexual orientation and gender identity are exceedingly rare in secondary school in the Philippines. When students do learn about LGBT people and issues in school, the message are typically negative, rejecting same-sex relationships and transgender identities as immoral or unnatural. When students face these issues, whether in isolation or together, the school can become a difficult or hostile environment. In addition to a physical and psychological injury, students describe how bullying, discrimination, and exclusion cause them to lose concentration, skip class, or seek to transfer schools, all impairing their right to education. For the right to education to have meaning for all students, including LGBT students, teachers, administrators, and lawmakers need to work together with LGBT advocates to ensure that the school becomes safer and more exclusive places for LGBT children. Although we should celebrate equality, but we can never lose sight how much work remains to be done. Here are the ways you can help to support LGBT community. Number 1. Support the Equality Act to make discriminations legal. We believe it's still legal to discriminate against a person for the sexual orientation or gender identity. Number 2. Put an end to bullying. Bullying, of course, can be experienced by anyone, but if you're an LGBT teen or youth, the statistics get really scary. Number 3. Stop anti-LGBT legislation, mainly with the aim of allowing business and agencies to deny services to LGBT individuals on the basis of religions. The range of the recent laws intended to debar transgender people from using the bathroom of their choice. This is another example of what we're up against. Check out the Human Rights Campaign. Lastly, shop at business that support LGBT equality.